This program is underwritten in part by
Janelle Encarnacion Art. Carlos Furniture, a family-owned business, has been providing furniture, appliances, and household accessories since 1997. The flagship store on St. Croix and another on St. Thomas are both open for in-store shopping and are able to ship to various locations in the Caribbean.
and viewers like you. The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.
Welcome to the Bookcase. I'm your host, Shawna Richards, a sometime writer and a longtime reader. I invite you to join me as we explore the bookcase and celebrate Virgin Islands authors and talent. Each week on the Bookcase, we'll introduce you to a local author and learn more about them and their work. A storyteller lives in each of us, and I am so excited to give our homegrown storytellers a chance to tell their story. Tonight's selection from the Bookcase is A Frank Conversation with Today's Youth, and I'm honored to welcome its author, Pearline James. Pearline, welcome to the Bookcase. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Why don't we start with you telling our audience a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Pearline James. I'm from the island nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I spent a couple of years as a child in Aruba, grew up with my aunt who became my adopted mother after the passing of my mother. I did schooling in St. Vincent and also Teachers College. I became a teacher. But I always had a lifelong dream of becoming a nurse. I migrated to the Virgin Islands in 1987, and I had my opportunity. I became a licensed practical nurse.
Nice.
So here I am, but I always had a love for writing and reading.
So your book, A Frank Conversation with Today's Youth, is it more informed by your experience as a teacher, that of a nurse? Where did you draw from to put this book together?
Okay, mainly it was, generally I was dealing with children as a teacher and as a nurse, because I worked at the Youth Rehabilitation Center where you had children who got in problems with the law. So working with those children, you see certain things that these children need help. Maybe if only someone had paid a little bit more attention. I'm not blaming anybody because we do have it hard sometimes. If only that, they might not have been where they are. So it inspired me to be that go-between. Maybe I might be able to help one person. So that was my inspiration for writing the book.
So when you wrote this book, and I see a lot of the teacher Pearline in it, at the end of every chapter, you have a question about reflection. Why was it important to put that question about reflection? You asked the reader to reflect on gun violence. You asked them to reflect on a number of different things that you cover in today's conversation. Why was that important to you?
It was very important because it's one thing to read about something or say something, but then when you are asked a question, you have to think about it, and you tend to, put yourself into it. So I think it was very important, to think about the question in depth and make a sensible answer.
So you wrote A Frank Conversation about Today's Youth. Is that a book for teenagers? Is it for parents? Who is the audience for this book?
My target audience is young teens and young adults. It is written specifically very simple for the ordinary mother who just, 12th grade can read I specifically wrote it so that anybody could understand. Very simple. So also a mother could read and take something away from it, from the book.
What are some of the topics that you cover? I know you covered self-esteem, and I thought that was very important how you phrased it for young women to have self-esteem and to believe in themselves. Why was it important for you to include that specific language for young women?
As a woman myself, I started as a child, of course, all of us. So I went through, that kind of thing. Also, even bullying and some of the things that are written in the book, I didn't put a name. A lot of it had to do with me, individually. So it was a lot of my early experiences in the book. And as I notice nowadays, there's a lot of bullying going on with social media and all that sort. So I think it's right there for now also.
Is this the book that you wish you'd had as a young person, or that you wish that your children had had?
I would say that I wish I had as a young person. But what I'm trying to do now, put my grandchildren in there. So they have copies of them written by me for them to look back on, and I am hoping that it does help,
And that's so special. How many young children can say, my grandma wrote this for me?
Yeah, so.
When you sat down to write a frank conversation with today's youth, why did you think you needed to write this book?
This is my personal belief. I think most people in the Christian world believe that we are all here for something, for a reason. And it was always my belief, even from a child, that I am here to help people in some way, to make things better for people, whether it is physically better or, mentally in some way. And I think the book, because of my love of reading, I would think, well, maybe you will find a child that would love to read also. And, so I feel that was my thought.
So you love to read. What do you love to read? What type of books do you love to read?
All kinds of books.
Really? You and I are going to be good friends.
All kinds of books. Growing up, I loved the romance books. But as you get older, I'm very political. So I love reading about different stories, about issues that occur, current affairs, stuff like that. So I love it all.
Do you think writing a frank conversation with today's youth, do you think you would have been able to write that if you hadn't worked at YRC and had that experience?
Probably not, to be honest with you, because in my teaching experience, I have worked mostly in private schools, so you get, so far, if you want to say the best of the crop, if you know what I'm saying, you get children who don't get in problems much, that kind of stuff. So I don't know if I would have been able to be honest. It was an inspiration working there.
So when you worked with those children, when you worked with those teenagers, were there specific things that you said that when you were writing that their situation or their circumstance you wanted to address?
Yes. There's a chapter, I think it is chapter 2, where I had some scenarios that I made up of different stuff that can happen to children. And it was a lot of their stories in disguise. Yeah, so it was directly with their stories and how they could possibly deal with
Which
some of
one
those
touched
problems.
you the most? You've talked about bullying, you've talked about self-esteem, but in working with those students and with writing this book, what touched you the most when you thought about how your writing could help that child?
There were so many young men that came to YRC. And I look back and I said, I mentioned in there it sounds bad, but I did say it's almost an endangered species.
I'm sure many would agree with that statement.
So that is what touched me most of all, is if we could do something for some of these young men. Whenever we see one have a little potential, not just the nurses, but the officers that I work with, we would encourage them, really encourage them. So that's my main influence. There are problems with a lot of young ladies, yes. But I am scared that we're going to lose a generation or more of young men in the Caribbean.
What in a frank conversation with today's youth speaks to wanting to save that generation? So would a young man picking up this book, or even a young woman, see themselves in that book?
I feel they could. I mean, look at it. Let's go back to, not as far as slavery, let's say Martin Luther King and those,
the civil rights
movement and
Right.
that era. Let's look back to that era. We seem to have come so far from there. And then recently, I asked myself, we seem to step backwards. So we need young, strong men, and strong in their beliefs in themselves that they can do it. We need that kind of people in our society if our society is to make it in the world today.
So in your book, in a frank conversation with today's youth, you talk about the reader believing in themselves and the encouragement and the self-esteem. Do you think that some of the issues that we're seeing with our young men and young women comes from just not having that belief in themselves and that self-esteem?
Definitely. I think self-esteem have a lot to do with it. And it have to do with values. People see themselves as they see the people on TikTok, and they figure, oh, that's it. Oh, I am great if I can do those things. But there's more to life than being on TikTok.
Right.
And it would be so good if, as young mothers nowadays, could take a little page from their your mother, my mother, your grandmother, that there's so much more to life than looking good, being in the latest, the latest clothes, the latest shoes, the latest hairstyle, stuff like that.
So when I read your book, A Frank Conversation for Today's Youth, I thought it's for youth, but I also thought that as a parent, I saw valuable things in there for me as well. My son is way past his teenage years, but I also saw some really important things that when I was a younger parent, I wish I'd had that information.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I don't know if I really thought about that. I did think that a young mother don't have to be very educated for it to help them. But I'm really happy to hear you say that.
Because if you see your child reading a book,
yes, you would want to know.
I think there's some curiosity. Well, what are you reading over there?
Why is he or she so interested in reading? Yeah.
But I thought it was important that you spoke about mental health.
Yes, that's a big thing now. Yep.
Why was it important for you to cover that?
Because as a nurse, I see us, we know people, all of us know people who are diabetic, who probably have hypertension, stuff like that. And nobody look down on them. You know, you're diabetic, but nobody like look down on. But we do look down on people with mental health issues, not realizing a lot of us have little mental health issues. And until we can look at it as just another disease,
Right, to remove that stigma.
remove the stigma, it's going to be a problem, you know?
So how do you address it in your book?
Okay. Well, I don't remember exactly. I know I mentioned it, but the exact words at this point, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was having someone to talk to.
Okay, yes, having someone to talk to. And I think I also did have a number that people could call a suicide number, yes, stuff like that. People should keep those things at hand, you know. Like we as nurses, any nurse would tell you, we keep the poison control number. We learn it or keep it with us. As young people, that's something they could keep. I was speaking to somebody the other day and I was telling them, I am thinking, I've heard of so much suicides within the last couple of months, generally and locally. I was telling them, maybe it's time the people in the schools that are counselors, you call them, maybe it's time they have
maybe
a
some
particular
training.
session where you probably take and you talk to all the children, not just those who you think might need. If you understand where I'm coming from?
So the young person reading this book, they may not say, oh, I'm bullied, I need to read this book. Oh, I have self-esteem issues, I need to read this book. But they might see, or I'm concerned about gun violence, I need to read this book. What helped you hone in on the issues that you wanted to cover? Because there's a lot of things out there that affect our young people.
Yes.
So how did you narrow it down to those things that were most important? And how long did that take?
A while, you know. Yeah, a while. I think if you have, you look at different point of view. If you have self-esteem, it's like you have certain keys and then you build on it. If you have a good self-esteem, that's number one in really making it in the world. Because, you feel you could, that's good. You're going to fall. At times, you might do, but at least, I can get up and I can make it. So I thought about that. I also, I believe a faith and a belief in God is very important. Everybody might not reach there to say, live the exact life you want to be, but strive towards it and leave your mind open. And sometimes something would possibly get through.
So when you had the idea for this book and started writing it, do you have a trusted circle of people that you would say, read this, tell me if I'm on the right track? What was your process of getting the book from your head to the page, to publish? What was that process like for you?
Definitely a lot of people, family members, and learning from family situations also, plus the children. But there was definitely a circle of people that I did, and people were very kind. Yeah, there was a teacher in the nursing, Miss Van Wingedam. She helped a lot. There were friends of mine, close friends of mine. Even my son helped because he's good with computers and yeah. So there were lots of people that I really did reach out to help in getting through the process. Yeah.
So how did you find your publisher? And how was that process for you?
Okay. Research, I did a lot of research, and at the time, the first time I printed, because this is the second printing.
Okay.
Yeah, the first time I chose Ex Libris. At the time when I looked, you could Google everything these days. And I was impressed with them, and that was how I chose them. So the process, well, to be honest with you, I heard about the Virgin Island Council for the Arts, and one day myself and another friend say, let us try and see if we could get a grant to, at the time she wasn't thinking about writing a book, she was thinking about making a different book, but eventually she did writing also. So we went to them and they sponsored us. So
nice.
The first copy was done by the Virgin Island Council for the Arts. I'm very grateful to them.
Is this your first book?
Right.
That you've written?
Yes, A Frank Conversation with Today's Youth.
Do you plan on writing more?
I do have The Conversation Continues, which is already out. This one more for adults, but as I say in the book, if you are a youth and you have problems, many times you're going to adults with the same problems, plus problems of being an adult that comes with it. So this is like part 1, and The Conversation Continues part 2. It's already out there.
Well, I would love for you to read a favorite passage from A Frank Conversation and share it with our audience.
Okay. 2 quick passages. Okay. In the preface, there was this part coming to the end of it. I said, if any part of this book makes you think deeper about a particular topic, a seed has been planted. If any topic generates a discussion in any forum, germination has begun. If a discussion on any topic leads to some positive action, growth has begun. I would have achieved at least the first part of my objective for writing this book. Thoughts can be formulated, discussions done, ideas developed before any action can be taken, with the hope of producing a positive change. And this part to the end here, this is the end of the second to last chapter. It says, if you are a teenager on the verge of adulthood, this should be one of the best times in your life. It should be an exciting time to be alive. Your life is before you like an empty canvas. You are the artist who will turn that canvas into a picture. Give it a lot of thought. Plan carefully. Choose your colors wisely. The picture you are creating will be your future. Create a masterpiece.
I love that. So, for the person who reads this, and while you say that this book is for teenagers, I think this book is really for teenagers and adults of any age. Because you said the seed is planted and then it germinates.
Right.
But as people, we're always growing. Right.
True. Very true. Very true.
And there may be something that, someone who is past their teenage years picks up and can still find words of encouragement.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yep.
You started writing. When did you start writing? As a young person, because you said you went into teaching.
Yeah.
So was writing something that you did as a young girl? Was it something that you would just write?
Well, I'll go back to my teachers. I have always been very encouraged by my teachers in my writing. What I did, I remember one teacher saying to me, you don't do math very well, but boy, you can write. And I say, and that stayed with me, Yeah, I always like writing, So writing, I knew I knew that I would write a book one day. I always knew I would write a book one day.
Do you see yourself venturing into, not with 2 books under your belt, do you see yourself venturing into other genres?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I have 2 more manuscripts that just need to be, yeah. One is for like children books, real children book, you know. And the other one is like a book. As a teacher, you find a child who is very intelligent, finish the works, finish everything, and then they stay there and they either cause problems with the other children or they are bored. So I am thinking, well, I have started a book for such children. Yeah, so, yep, that's my...
For the person who is looking at the bookcase tonight and they see your trajectory from teacher to nurse to writer, what would be, and they think that they may have a story in them to tell, what is your tip for those aspiring writers out there?
You have the idea, work on it, believe in yourself, you can do it. It's gonna be hard work, be prepared. Well, nowadays, it's not like I wrote a lot and with a pen and tore it up. Now you have, some tablets, iPads, computers, you know?
So is that your writing process? Are you the pen and
Yes,
pad?
I am the pen and pad.
So you're not the, let me sit down and type it all out?
Not yet. I'm not there yet. But so it does take a long time because you write this and then, no, this should go in there.
How long did it take you to write a frank conversation? You said a while, but was that a year, 2 years, 2 months?
Okay, I had ideas. To be honest with you, I had ideas years before, and the whole journey maybe took about 2 years. From
start to
just
finish.
from just having ideas to completing it.
What is the key message of a frank conversation? What do you want to leave our audience with? What's the key message of your book?
That is the key message in this book and the other book. We all make mistakes, and we will make mistakes as long as we are alive. The important thing is how we react to it. Do we make a mistake and say, oh, I already did this, so I am not going to be. I already went to jail, so what? You know?
But it's always, this isn't the end.
Yes, it isn't the end. There's always, well, how can I, even though I went to jail, let me think about somebody who.
Right.
And how they came out, yeah.
Thank you so much, Pearline, for spending time with us. It's been a pleasure to learn more about our local talent, Pearline James. For more information on a frank conversation with today's youth or any of the books featured on this program, visit our website at www.wtjx.org. We appreciate your support of our local authors, and we'll see you next week when we take another book from the Bookcase.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters. This program was underwritten in part by
Janelle Encarnacion Art
and viewers like you.